Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Chuck's Contractor Corner. I'm Chuck, your podcast host, and today we've got Nick with me from True Beacon. Nick, thanks for jumping on the show with us today.
Absolutely, man. Happy to join. Thanks for the invite.
Right on. So before we fully dive in here, why don't you tell our listeners where you're located? And more importantly, this is a question I'll be asking every single contractor on the show. What is the weather like out there?
Yeah, so we're located in Orleans, Ontario. We do solar installs. So right now it's booming season for us. The guys are on the roof, and like you say, right now it's very hot outside, so the guys are sweating on the roof, getting their suntans on.
Yeah, oh, it's nasty out there. It's been a long time coming. I know. Well, you know, we're in the same area. This spring has been a pretty wet and slow, cold spring. So it's nice to see a bit of hot weather. I think this is probably the first day above 30 that we probably have this year so far. So right on.
Very
Yeah.
welcome weather, man, because it's been a long winter, and freaking the spring's just been teasing us for a month or two. It feels like.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is. I know in March, I mean, it seemed like it was nicer in March than it was in May this year. So every year is different, obviously, but no, it's nice to get the warm weather now for June. So now I did see on your obviously I checked out your website before we hopped on here, and I gotta say, man, I absolutely love the branding that you got going on. Obviously, I've
Thank
been
you.
following you, I think since the beginning of when you started this, because I know when you first kind of started, you were just an electrician with a regular company, if I recall correctly, and then you kind of started this True Beacon thing. So tell me a bit about the branding and kind of what's behind the branding that you
Yeah,
got
so
going.
I'll take you on a quick journey. But basically, I started in the trade when I was 18. I did 11 years working for other contractors, got my master's license, finally started my own thing. And like you said, it was doing electrical contracting. So just over 4 years ago now, I started a company called Gorilla Voltage, and we're just really focused on electrical for residential clients. So renovations, hot tubs, pool, EV chargers, panel upgrades, basically everything. And then about 2 years in, started doing solar, getting a little bit of an interest towards it. And we did a full company rebrand for the purple. So we rebranded to True Beacon, fully wrapped the van, redid the website, and just kind of retargeted our specific audience with that branding. Because the old branding was like a screaming gorilla with freaking teeth out, right?
Yeah,
It was a
yeah, I
little
remember
bit
that.
aggressive. Like anybody our age thought like, oh man, that's a badass logo. But the clients that we're going after now are usually older, 50, 60, 70 years old. So we wanted something a little bit more approachable. I've always loved purple ever since I was in high school, man. I always had purple clothing. So I said, the one thing I want with the rebrand is there has to be some purple in it. So we went purple, yellow. Now we pretty much own those colors in this market, right? There's no other companies really not doing solar with purple and yellow, and I don't see really many contractors using those colors. Most of the time, it's a variation of like my old logo, which is like black and yellow, or somebody black and orange, black and green, whatever. Contractors really love the black and some other construction color, like the
Yeah,
high vis colors, right?
yeah, no, absolutely right. No, I do remember the branding that you had previously, and you know what? I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think the branding itself was more of an aggressive type of, a little bit more geared towards men, if I could say, whereas that purple kind of branding kind of softens up the client perspective in regards to kind of the electrical, portion of the industry, right? So
Mhm.
definitely a softer look, but no, I gotta say I love it, man. It's I'm a big brand guy, so for me, it's I love to see different companies with different unique creative names and brandings out there. So and how long have you been? I guess in total from when you kind of first started until now, how long have you been in the electrical space?
So just over 15 years now. Yeah. So like
Okay.
I started when I was 18. I'm 33, going to be 34 later this fall. So just over 15 years. So pretty much like whole adult life was been in electrical, and just like I hadn't really done solar before. I had worked on a few projects doing the electrical side of things. Then we started, offering that as a service. I kind of saw the potential in it, and I saw where the grid's going, where the power demand's going. I think by 2050, the Ontario grid is set to like double in demand. Essentially, like we're going to use as double the amount of power that we have now, and we don't have the generation in place to fulfill those needs. So there's a few ways to go about it. One is hydro in Ontario, Hydro One. They're pretty proactive on this. They are building out new generation. They are building out new lines, but at the same time, we have to reduce the amount of power that each home is pulling from the grid. So they're one incentivizing us with rebates to do that, but they want people to start generating power at home and storing it at home. anytime there's a storm, you have your home battery, your home stays powered. A lot of people are going electric vehicles. So it kind of becomes a whole home ecosystem where you're generating the power at home, you're storing it at home, you're charging your car, you're getting back from work. You can plug your car into your home and actually power the home with the battery from the vehicle. So it becomes its whole ecosystem. And then that home needs less power from the grid. So it reduces the amount of generation capacity that Hydro One needs to put online.
Right, right. No, that makes total sense. And you know what? I've heard stories about power grids kind of being over, like more so in the States, I would say. I've heard some of these things, but
Yeah.
where the power grid is just overloaded. Some, transport trucking company decides to go full electric, and then they go to the city or the state, and they're say, this is our plan. We plan on putting this many chargers and operating this many trucks, and then they kind of get laughed at because it's like, well, that's how much like power the city actually pulls in fully. So, it's pretty unique that you're I guess with Hydro One kind of working into that, and I guess they really have no choice if they want to kind of keep this going and keep the country growing in terms of the population and everything, the amount of homes, right? So, um, that's definitely an interesting take. So let's start then at the beginning. When you first started as an electrician, how did you kind of get into, the electrical world, and were you always kind of drawn to that, or is that something you just kind of fell into?
Yeah, I would say the latter, man. Kind of fell into it. I finished high school. I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. And essentially my dad worked in sales at a electrical firm and he managed to get me in. And when I started, man, I wasn't interested in it at all. Like, I don't know. I guess it maybe the typical 18-year-old that felt pretty entitled and thought like, oh man, I'm too good for this shit. Like I'm gonna go, do something else or whatever. So I wasn't putting like my heart and like actual effort into being skilled at the trade. But I still, I went through my apprenticeship, finished my apprenticeship after 5 years, got my license, did a couple years as a journey person. I think around 1 year. And then I quit the trade. I started my first business, which was a fitness coaching business. So I was doing like online coaching for clients. This is back like, man, probably 8 years ago or something like that. Did that for about a year. Wasn't quite as much money as I was making as an electrician. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go back, give it another shot. Got on with a really good company and the timing was just kind of right. Started putting a lot of effort into it and really improved my skill set dramatically. Got some good opportunities with them and worked on some really cool projects over like the year and a half, 2 years I was with them. And then COVID hit and we were off work, like completely couldn't, that site got completely shut down, couldn't go into work, couldn't go to the gym. So then I started thinking and I started up doing like little renovation jobs on the weekend. So I would just go do a Saturday and put in some lights in a house and then did that for a little while, maybe a couple months. And then I started comparing how much I was making on the weekend versus during the week. I'm like, dude, I'm making more on Saturday on one day than I'm making all freaking week. But I really liked the company I was with and the guys were awesome. So like I kind of stuck it out a bit. And then finally they did a thing that pissed me off. And I went in that morning. I told my foreman, like, hey, dude, like, that's it. Like, I'm done. I'm starting my own thing. And he was kind of super shocked. Like, he didn't know what to say. And, you know, he really liked me. So it was like, all right, man, well, that freaking sucks for me, but, best of luck. And, they called me back, tried to get me back in, but I was pretty dead set on starting my own thing. There was another opportunity to go travel and like, it's basically go work for 3 months and go make like 50 grand or something, like super out of town type of work. And I was like, oh man, that seems like a good opportunity. I'd like 50 grand, that'd be nice. And ultimately I decided, you know what, it's either I start this now or I'm not going to start at all. So I said, fuck it. I'm going to start it now, stick with it. And man, that first year I pretty much didn't make any money. Like, I think the company over 6 months, because I started kind of halfway through the year, the gross revenue was like 130K and I paid myself 30 grand and the company lost 5 grand. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
work a shit ton of hours, just trying to figure it out, offering my services on Kijiji, on Facebook Marketplace, and didn't really make much money that year. But, from there on, it kind of picked up. I found some good coaches, some good mentors, and here
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah, no, that always helps for sure. And so when you started Gorilla, about what was that? What year was that then?
That was 2020.
2020. So right in COVID. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I figured. I
exactly.
knew because I knew you had started. Well, I think I probably started following you. It seems like it's been years now that I've been kind of following you around. So
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it.
But yeah, no, well, the branding is what stood out to me. I got to say, the Gorilla Voltage, that initial company you had, that's what kind of stood out to me. And at that point, I was kind of starting on my own entrepreneurial journey at that point. So for me, it was looking into businesses and what could I be doing? I was still working for the city of Ottawa at the time, so I had a full-time job that I could kind of think about what I wanted to do before kind of pulling the trigger, right? So, but it's funny you mentioned your first year, with the salary like that, it was the same. I was in the same boat essentially, right? I kind of started out. I was lucky enough. I had a decent amount of contracts the first year, and I had to get a second tractor just because of the honestly the overwhelming responses from people and people signing up. So it was definitely an interesting first year. So I guess for you, what was that first year like? Like what was the paint us a picture of kind of how that first year went, kind of the good, the bad, the ugly, because we all know there's just as much negative as positive, right? So
Yeah, it was a lot of work because like I'm a trades guy, man. I've never looked at spreadsheets. I don't know like what's a margin, what's a profit percentage. Like I don't know. I have no freaking clue. I was just like, oh, it's gonna take me 8 hours, make $50 an hour at work. Cool. So 8 times 50 plus $200 in material. There you go. And then you finish your year and you're like, holy crap, we lost money. I'm like, what happened there? So it was a lot of work, man. It was call it 8 to 12 hours a day in the field. And then the remainder of my night was in the office just trying to figure it out. And I basically had the conversation with my wife, which was my girlfriend at the time, of like, hey, this is going to be pretty much my reality for the next little bit. So, like, if you're not down for that, I get it. But like, this is what it's going to be. And I have to commit fully to this. So it was like, from the time I wake up at 6 a.m. to 9, 10 p.m., I was doing some form of work, trying to figure it out and essentially make ends meet. Like the first little bit, I didn't really pay myself. Then I started, okay, I can afford to pay myself $500 a week. And then eventually $700 a week and a little bit more and a little bit more. But the turning point for me was at the end of that first year, I found it was like a contractor specific coaching group, which, if you know anything, there's like a shit ton of business
oh yeah.
coaching available. But at the time I found this, I'm like, well, frick, this is for me, man. I'm a contractor. I need help. So I signed up and I remember it was 5K US at the time, which is like 7 or 8 grand Canadian. And I had 10 grand in the bank account. I'm like, frig, man, this is a lot of money. Like, is this going to be worth it? I don't know. And I said, you know what? Fuck it. Let's do it. So I pulled the trigger on it. And that was like, I would say that one of the best decisions I've made in business was that original coaching. They taught me about gross profit, how to price my jobs, a little bit of like sales training, just how to deal with your clients, some form of sales process, because I was doing like everybody else, just running around town, doing a bunch of freaking estimates for free and wasting all my
Yeah.
time. And I stayed in that group for probably a year. And then so the next year with everything I've learned from that coaching, we did 460. I hired a full-time electrician and an apprentice, so like things started to kind of take off from there, and now I'm in a bunch of different coaching, and
Yeah.
it's got to
Yeah.
continually keep learning and improving your skill set to hit those next levels, right? Like the one thing I've learned in business is that the business can only grow as big as you are, as your belief in yourself, essentially. So it's
Yeah.
like if you want to hit those next levels for the business, you got to be there or you got to get there.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. No, I think belief is a big thing in business. I think a lot of contractors, especially starting out, it's a belief issue. It's not necessarily the skill or the motivation to kind of start and grow a company. It's really just the limiting beliefs in your mind. And I gotta say, I'm in the same boat as you. That first coaching program that I went into, it was actually 7K US. So for me, it was, that was a lot of money at the time. I mean, that upwards of 10K. And I figured, you know what, like this is crazy. But it was actually the sales guy that essentially convinced me. Essentially, I'm gonna put it that way. And it was a kind of a marketing sales program. It was mostly on the sales side. And I figured, you know what, if he's able to convince me and he's one of the coaches, well, I want in. So I just went with it. And since then, I've obviously invested into a few programs since then, which I'm sure those programs aren't cheap for the most part, but a lot of them can literally 2, 3, 4, 5x your business, right? And it's just small changes here and there that you learn, you implement those, and then you find out, wow, I'm glad I did that, right? So I guess before you started your business, then, if you wish that somebody would have given you one piece of advice, what would that one piece of advice been before you even started?
I'm gonna say the same thing everybody says. It's gonna be a lot fucking harder than you thought. Like when I
That's
started, dude, I started at the same time as a buddy of mine, but he started on the Quebec side, and we had all these like ideas of how much money we're gonna make, right? And yeah, it's a lot freaking harder than that, dude. Like thankfully now I'm in a place where like I pay myself essentially the same as an electrician salary, but I obviously do a ton more than that. But yeah, I think basically it's like it's going to be a lot harder than you think it's going to be. And if you're cool with that, great. And like my biggest gain from starting my business has been the self improvement that comes along with it.
Yeah,
I am not the same
absolutely.
person that started the business like at all.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
know my friends around me would just say the same thing. My family, my wife would say the same thing. Like there's been leaps and bounds of improvement, sales training, coaching, getting in uncomfortable situations, figuring it out. Yeah.
yeah. No, I think the uncomfortable situations is a big thing. I think nowadays people are kind of, especially in our town. I mean, it's a government town, right? A good portion of people work for the government. They clock in from home for the most part nowadays. They do their work and they clock out, and that's it. And it's kind of, there's no self-development there for the most part. I mean, there's little courses here and there in the government, but most of them nowadays are just diversity and inclusion type of meetings and programs. So it's definitely, I know my entrepreneurial journey so far has been more than what I thought it would be starting out, right? I worked for, like I was a government worker before that. I was obviously in the military for 5 years and then worked for the city for another 5 years. And obviously the skills I learned there are very valuable, but there's only so much you learn being in kind of the corporate environment, right? Until you start on your own, start your own business, and kind of get out there. That's where you really kind of get into the thick of learning and self development. So, um,
I
and I
think yeah,
guess
it's sorry to cut you off there, but it's like it's a fast track for self development, and if you're game for it, it's the best way to do it. You can work your full time job and, like you say, take little courses on the side and shit. But at the end of the day, you're just kind of playing around, you're dicking around. The best way to do it, and I've worked with a ton of these guys, like, oh, I'm going to start my company one day, and blah blah blah, and like they still haven't done it, and now I'm like, hey, well now I got 4 years on you and I've grown this much. And maybe okay, you got a foreman position, you got little leaps and bounds here, but it's not the same as going out to the battlefield at all.
at all, at all. I completely agree, honestly. And it was tough for me, honestly, to quit the city. For me, it was, I mean, I was making a pretty good salary there. So for me, it was, my dad was calling me crazy. My wife was questioning whether she wanted to stay with me or not. Like there
Yeah.
was a lot of, I wouldn't completely call it turmoil that first year, but there was definitely some growing pains. And starting out the snow business, that those first few storms that first year, there was a couple moments where I thought to myself, am I really going to do this? Like, this is crazy, man. Like, I'm just dealing with a bunch of people reaching out. They want a refund. They're not happy with the service. And then I'm thinking, is this me? Like, so there's a lot of, you're able to kind of push through a lot more in life when you kind of start a business and go through that growing stage of growing a business and those frustrations, right? So I think it helps on a professional side, but just as much on a personal side, right? And I guess at which point was there kind of a specific moment before you started the company that you kind of realized, like, you know what, this isn't just a thing I'm doing on the weekends anymore. Like, I want to go full out. Was there a defining moment?
Like to go way back, like I always knew growing up, and I don't know if you had this inkling, but I'm like, man, I'm looking around and I'm like, all the people that seem to have wealth seem to be business owners. So I'm like, I want to have a business, right? So I always thought that way since I was like pretty young. So I tried like the fitness coaching, I tried an apparel business. I didn't like lessons learned from those. I didn't quite put enough effort. And basically, I came to realization that I'm like, I have a skill set that I've developed for 11 years in the electrical field. Why would I not leverage that skill set instead of trying to learn something new? Leverage that skill set, start your first business, and then you can always fall back on the hands-on aspect of it and learn the business as you go. So essentially using the revenue, the profits from the hands-on work to fund my entrepreneurial education, basically.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
you just compound that over time, and then you can eventually step out of that hands-on aspect and start playing business, right? But that's kind of the way I saw it. And now it's like this is what I'm doing right now. And I don't see myself going anywhere or changing any business ideas down the road. But the aspect that I like is the business side of things. It's not so much like being on the tools and terminating wires or anything like that. Like that's a great skill set. And the guys that do that make really good money. Like back to your point of, you're working a job that pays good money. Like, dude, I have friends I was in the union, the electrical union, and it's like 150, 200. I have guys that I know that are making over 200K doing that. And I'm
hmm
like, man, I'm starting my business, like making 30K my first year. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, am I an idiot? But now it's like, okay, no, I'm developing a different skill set. And eventually that skill set, I believe, like my bet is that I'll get better leverage with that skill set to be able to afford a better life and to kind of, go up the rungs here.
yeah. No, it's definitely a long-term game. I mean, business, I mean, unless you fall into some type of product that it just explodes, but typically service-based companies, it's not just overnight. There's no necessarily no overnight success where it just kind of happens all of a sudden, right? There's definitely a grind there at the beginning to kind of work things out and push through. Um, Instead of kind of staying comfortable and working for the government, right? I mean, I had my wife on top of me, the not physically,
Yeah, I was gonna say, okay, now we're getting interesting.
but she was on me for going back to the government, right? Like after that first winter we had, she's like, all right, well, like, what do you do in the summer, right? Is just, are you going back to the government? Are you? So then I got into fence installation. That's how I kind of got into that. Ended up working for a guy I used to go to high school with, and then the summers after, I ended up starting my own thing. So it's there's definitely a grind there at the beginning. Like you said, you could just be an electrician and make 150, 200K a year and stay comfortable, but there's a plateau there, right? And you kind of can't necessarily get over that plateau unless you kind of start your own thing and take some risks, right? So
Yeah, I think it also comes down to like how do you want to spend your days? Because it's not all about the money. Like, yeah, money's great, but like it's also how do I want to spend my days? Because yeah, do I want to spend my days on a concrete slab in a building, bending conduit, pulling wire? Like one, it is tough on the body. Like it is what it is. It's a trade. It's tough on the body. Like I know how my body felt when I was on the tools and working hard. It is like it feels a
hmm
little bit beat up. Plus, then you go to the gym or you do any other, martial arts, sports, whatever, and like your body's getting pretty beat up, even if you are taking care of yourself. So it's like, do I want to spend 9 hours a day doing physical labor? Do I want to, learn a different skill set and do that instead? And like, where do I see myself when I'm 50 years old, 60 years old? Do I want to be like, I've worked with some miserable old sons of bitches
yeah,
that are
yeah,
50, 60 years old and they're falling apart and they're friggin' doing drugs on site, they're chain smoking cigarettes and they're freaking miserable, dude. And whether or not that's because they just, they went down the trade route and that's what they've done, or it's I don't know what the situation is. But when you're looking at that and you're like, is that the path I want to fucking take?
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Probably
yeah.
not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I think the trades is one thing, obviously, is an industry where it's so physical that guys that are doing that for 30 years, I mean, yeah, go ahead, right? Go do that for 30 years, but you come out of that 30 years and you're not going to be able to really enjoy life to the fullest, right? Or like you would if you kind of worked for 10, 15 years physically and then moved on to something else, right? So
Mhm.
I know my cousin, he's an electrician out of a company in the east end of Ottawa, and he's now in an office, essentially kind of working as a project coordinator, project manager, and he's my age. So I mean, he's worked 10 years on the tools. Now he started his apprenticeship like at whatever the legal age is to start. I think it was 14, 15 when he started because he had his red seal before guys that were a year older that had started after high school. So he kind of
Nice.
got ahead of the game and was able to work with a couple different companies as well and was able to kind of learn what different companies are doing. And then now he's laughing. He's in an office making good money. And, I think eventually you kind of have to have an exit plan in the trades unless again, you want to work 30 years and be busted after that. But preferably, you want to enjoy time with your grandkids eventually, right? So now in the years that you kind of started all this, was there a moment, whether it be with Gorilla or with True Beacon, that it was kind of like an oh shit moment where there was a huge fuck up and something happened? And how did you kind of handle that moment?
A huge fuck up. I mean, there's always shit that goes wrong, dude. Like when you have people working for you or inspections or old homes, like when you're working in old houses, man, there's a bunch of shit that can go wrong. And then you just got to have the balls to have an awkward conversation with the client or with your employee or whatever, and then just fix the problem. Like sometimes that means you're losing money on this job, but I would rather lose money on the job and the client say, you know what? At least they did right by me. And they might still not be happy with me because there was still a mistake made or whatever, but I can walk away from that knowing that I did the right thing. And I think that's
hmm
just that compounded over time. It that builds my self confidence that I know, like, hey, I'm doing the right thing here. I'm not going around ripping people off. And that makes me confident in selling the next job and keeping on going. So it's just, yeah, you're going to fuck up, admit you fucked up, and then fix it as best you can, and then move on. And then some clients, like, if some people are super unreasonable, then you just gotta know that you did the best that you could, and
Yeah,
right.
I totally agree, honestly. And I think the snowmobile industry is an industry that's kind of known, to have people that are unreasonable and have people complain for, literally showing up 15 minutes after they left for work and they just didn't want to walk in, 5 to 10 centimeters of snow, right? So I know we deal with that quite a bit in our industry, but again, it's kind of how you handle it, right? I know a lot of contractors out there, and it's unfortunate, but a lot of them just, you know what? No, I'm not fixing it. I'm not coming by. Screw you. And then they get a bad review, and then they're bitching that they got bad reviews, right? So,
I think
um,
the
you know,
best thing, dude, you could do is just like 100% agree with your client, and then like, how are they going to be pissed off if you agree with them that they're absolutely right, and then you get pissed off as well, and you're like, you know what, Mister Customer, you're right. That's absolutely unacceptable that you had to walk through that, 10-15 centimeters of snow. I'm going to come fix it right away, and the next time you call my number personally, and I'll come do it, or whatever, right? And like, there's no point in arguing with people. One, because the customer is always right is kind of true in a sense. You make them feel right, even if they're wrong. Make them feel right. Let them be heard. Yes, you're allowed to be mad, and then just move on from it. But it's like the customer service aspect's definitely it's tricky because at first, man, you take it super personally, right? Because it's your business.
absolutely.
It's your
Yeah,
whole like identity at the time when you're putting 12 plus hours a day in. Like that's your whole reality. And when somebody you feel like they're attacking that or attacking your morals or your ethics, you take it personally, right? But yeah, you got to let that shit roll off your back, so to speak, and it comes with
absolutely.
experience.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, I know the first year, my stress levels were through the roof that first year, just having dealt with the amount of complaints that we dealt with, right? But again, it just makes you have thicker skin, and it just, improves your approach for the following time, right? So as your approach kind of evolves and changes, you're able to kind of approach customers differently. And there's always going to be those unreasonable people. I mean, and it seems like nowadays there's just more and more of those type of people around. I know with us, we've given full refunds right after, two or three events of the season, where if they complain, every storm, because this is happening or that's happening, or we're missing 4 inches near the garage, or whatever complaint is, it's just unreasonable. We try and manage our expectations, like the client expectations, as best we can, but oftentimes there's just some people that just won't be happy, right? So those people, honestly, we give them a full refund, and we politely tell them, hey, listen, unfortunately, we won't be able to meet your expectations for this year, but here's a full refund. And that approach, I would say, for us at least, has worked. We've given, I think, 6 or 7 full refunds now in the 3 years that we've had our business, and not one of those has left a bad review or has complained on social media or has done anything in a negative light, right? So you're kind of just protecting the reputation a little bit of your business. But for me, at $500, I'll happily give you a full refund if it prevents, another dozen phone calls throughout the season, right? So, and now our approach to quoting is now changing, where we're actually like qualifying our clients, right? So it's not just anybody we're taking on. You can't just sign up on our website. I purposely have that in my website so that you can't just pay and sign up, because I want to meet you first. I want to either talk to you over the phone or ideally meet you in person and get a sense of who you are, and if you're going to complain or not, and if those complaints are going to be valid or not, right? So it's sometimes hard to determine that in a 5, 10, 15, maybe 20, 30-minute conversation, but oftentimes you start to get a sense, right? The more you do business with people, the more you meet people, you kind of get a sense. One of my questions is, when you shovel or when you do your own snow removal, do you like it to be right down to the asphalt, right, nice and clean and dark and shiny? Or do you not mind that there's a bit of buildup on the laneway, right? And as soon as they give me the answer where, no, 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 I expect it to be scraped right down to asphalt every time, the conversation ends right there. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll be able to help you out. Our equipment is made for commercial application. It's not a shovel that's going to get into every crack and crevice in your laneway. And the reality is most laneways are not completely flat. And on a 7-foot piece of steel that's completely straight, it's not going to go into every crevice, right? Now there's new technologies coming out there now with the snowblowers that we're using. So it's mitigating a little bit of that. But again, we want to be able to lower the client expectation and it to perform up here, right? We want to just exceed expectations. So instead of flipping that around, we try and kind of minimize the quality of our service without underselling it or without, trying to avoid a sale. We're obviously trying to make it more realistic for the client.
Well, you also like over time you figure out your ideal candidate profile, right? Like
Yeah.
I had a
Yeah.
couple calls today where I'm like, I was grilling the guy hard because I know I'm like, I've dealt with you before and you're not the ideal candidate. So like whatever. I'm gonna give you some tough questions here so I can
Yeah.
get an answer and then we can like kind of cut to the chase. But
Yeah.
yeah, it takes a bit of time to figure that out. And once you have that dialed in, I think you can figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So I guess fast forward to today, then, with the business that you got going now with Trubeak, and give us kind of a rundown of your operation. You know, how many crews you got out there, how many employees, you know, kind of your service area, and any other details that you want to provide.
Yeah, so right now we're strictly focusing on solar and batteries. Most of our work is residential. Like I say, we're in Orleans, so we do basically 2 to 3 hours outside of Ottawa, all the way to Kingston sometimes for some work. If it is bigger projects, you know, we might bid stuff like right now we're bidding on a project in Hamilton, where we can kind of go and stay for a couple weeks and get the project done. That's a bigger commercial project. We're starting to do a little bit of commercial estimates to build out that side of the company. Right now, we've got two different crews I use for the rooftop installation, and then I have two electricians I use, and we've got two guys helping me in the office. So one like the project management, so it is pretty paperwork heavy, and one guy helping out with the commercial estimates. And my time is basically split between marketing, sales, and then some project management and meetings within the team, basically scheduling all that stuff.
Right, right, right. Well, that kind of leads me to the next question. What does your typical day look like, let's say today, with your position compared to, let's say, when you started out with Gorilla in those beginning days? What are the differences there?
It's very different. When I started with Gorilla, basically same as you probably. Up early, 6 a.m. By 7, I'm in the truck and I'm going to my first job. And then you work till it's done. Sometimes you'd have multiple jobs a day. So back anywhere from 4 to 6, and then do, you know, 1 to 3 hours of paperwork and try to squeeze in a gym session, or, you know, maybe even spend some time with my wife. Crazy idea. That's basically what the days look like then. And then some days just got away from you and you know, you get home at 8 o'clock and that's your day. Now I've trying to be a little bit more effective with how I spend my time. So I've broken down my day, and this is a Alex Hormozy thing that I'm experimenting with here the past couple of weeks. Basically, the first 4 hours of my day, I work on anything that's like kind of high level stuff where I need like my creative energy. So I've just essentially put the freaking phone away. I'm not checking my emails. I'm not doing nothing like that. Like I'm somewhat unreachable, and I'm working on either marketing campaigns, spreadsheets for cash flow or anything like that, reading, trying to optimize our own marketing, studying essentially. Second part of my day, I do a little bit of sales training. I do all my sales activities, then follow up calls, client appointments, closing jobs, sending out quotes. And then the third part of the day, basically from like 2 to 4 or 5, 6 p.m., I'm really doing so fulfillment. So I'll do my project management. We have a daily meeting, go through all the projects, make sure everything's on track. I'll check my emails. I'll do client updates, just say, hey, this is where your project's at. And then any of the gears that need to happen every day just to keep the business running, that's kind of my third part of the day.
Right on, right on. I absolutely love that breakdown. Yeah, that's I've kind of gone with the same type of, I guess, setup in terms of the day with kind of the cumbersome, you know, kind of high level where you just really need to put your brain, you know, right into it and dive deep for 2, 3, 4 hours and kind of focus. And I leave more of the social stuff to kind of towards the afternoon, right? So obviously these podcasts starting out, I much prefer to have these at, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 p.m. in the afternoon. You know, I think energy levels, you know, once you get to kind of that where you're working on your business, you're not necessarily working in it, or maybe you're still working in it, but you're making that transition to working on your business. I think energy is a huge thing. And I think you kind of have to know what your energy cycles are throughout the day, right? So some guys wake up, they're groggy, they're tired until about 9, 10 o'clock, and then they kind of switch on and get going, right? So those guys, maybe it's better to start working out in the morning, get your energy up right away. Whereas some guys are kind of the opposite. They wake up and they're wired and they're ready to go. So they'll do that and they might work out midday to kind of push through the rest of that day. But I think everybody's different on that level where you just have to be in tune with your energy levels, right? So for me, socially, I'd much rather be social kind of in the, you know, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. range, maybe closer towards the end of the afternoon after I've had a couple coffees. But the morning is really that time to kind of focus and put the phone away and kind of hunker down, right? So what's something in your business right now that you're really proud of, something that you kind of has popped up in the last maybe 6 months, and it's something that you can kind of share that you're really proud of?
Right now, what I'm working on is like I'm going really hard on the marketing. So you know, did a lot of sales training, and that's great. You can do as much sales training as you want, but at some point you need leads to fill in the pipeline, right? So we've done paid ads, we've done all that stuff, and it gets really expensive really quick. and it's kind of hard to measure results. You know, you hire marketing agencies, they give you these friggin' weird metrics of awareness and whatever, all these other made up metrics. And then you're like, hey, well, I just spent 10 grand this month. Like, what happened? You know, I got 100 leads, 10 people picked up the phone and one person closed, or, you know, net negative for the month on that ad spend. So right now I'm learning a crap ton on marketing. I don't know, 6 books I'm looking at that I'm reading right now, basically. And I'm basically rolling out a bunch of different funnels, which is a way to bring in clients into the business
Right.
without necessarily doing a bunch of paid ads. So, you know, I'm putting out an ebook that I've been working on for a couple weeks. That's about 40 pages long. It's a free ebook that we're going to offer clients, and a way to bring them into our ecosystem where we can then nurture them through email, offer consultations, and just get a lead in essentially by giving away a free ebook.
Right.
And
Right.
then I'm working on a few other, like I got another offer that I'm going to roll out here shortly. We're going to do a mailer campaign, a little bit of ads, but we have a whole funnel that it's going to run through. So the landing page has tracking. The people land on the landing page. I know it's okay. They're from that neighborhood. They're from that campaign. They're going to go to that phone number, and then we'll see, you know, how many of those we can close. But we're really working on not offering just, most of the marketing is like, hey, we do solar. Hey, we do snow. Hey,
Hmm.
we do this. And it's like, okay, I've seen 10 of these friggin' ads from 10 different companies, but there's no real reason to call them. There's no offer. There's nothing, right? So I'm really dialing in, and it's another Hormozy book that I read, the $100 million offers, where we're dialing in, hey, this is exactly what you're going to get. These are the guarantees behind this offer. And it's essentially like a package. If you've seen our website, we have pricing packages on the website. So I have, you know, 3 different packages for solar. I got 2 different packages for battery. Then we can bundle all those together to make it super clear for clients. So it's like you don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops to get a price from us. One, it's on the website. And if you book a call with me, I'm going to show you the same packages, and we're going to pick a package that works best for you based on your home and your energy needs. So really simplifying the process for the clients, making it a nice offer, making it kind of seamless, and just making our sales process like really better than everybody else's. Like we get back to people, if you submit a request, you should hear back with an email like same day, and then that's going to prompt you to book a call with me. And then once you book a call, I'm going to share pricing. And we always get the same feedback of like, oh shit, you're the first one to get back to us. Like we're still waiting for 3 other quotes, right? So really just streamlining the marketing and sales process. And I think that's where our company has an advantage versus like the other guys around town, because like I don't really think they're really doing anything. And I think that's just the Canadian market. It seems that it's not very competitive. People aren't very hungry. Like you said, we're a government town, and I did the math, and well, I asked ChatGPT to do the math, and like indirect and direct employment for the government in Ottawa is about 30% of the population works directly or indirectly for the government. And I think the mindset that most people have is just you know, they get their job, they do their 9 to 5, and then they're just kind of chilling. There's not a whole ton of ambition usually. And I kind of feel that way with the Canadian market, that people are just generally not super ambitious. Even if they do start their own business, like I don't think they're putting in 12, 14-hour days trying to like really crush the competition. They're just like, yeah, we have a business, you know, we do X amount per year. We have a couple guys, and like things are good. And that's it. It's just status quo. Like nobody's pushing. And you go to the States, and like that shit doesn't fly at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's
Well, you
more
have no
competitive.
choice but to separate yourself down there.
Yeah.
Obviously, the population's much bigger, but no, I think you're right. I think a lot of people, like you said, the word ambitious, it just seems like nobody really has drive to kind of start their own thing and just be creative and just, you know, do something that you love to do, right? And a lot of businesses are happy with what they have, right? They're making 500,000 and so is getting paid. They've got 1 or 2 employees and they're happy with just, you know, doing that until they retire, right? So I think obviously everybody's visions are different, right? For what they want. Some people just want to move up in the government. Some people want to grow a business. Some people don't want to grow a business, right? So, but no, I really love that marketing approach with kind of looking at different options on how to kind of bring people in. And I think nowadays free value is huge, right? Providing value first, and then building trust and authority within that specific industry before the person even calls you or reaches out, right? And then once they do reach out, there's already that rapport that's built, or that trust where, you know, if they've Google searched you and your reviews are good, you know, I know for us that was huge. We really pushed this year for that many more reviews. And so now people can't really Google you or us, let's say, because I checked out your reviews as well. You guys are doing pretty good. There's just automatic trust that's built there, right? So it's almost kind of a marketing piece in and of itself to have good reviews and good testimonials, right? And obviously, looking at some of the testimonials on your website as well, that's huge as well. I don't think enough contractors kind of lean into that.
Mhm.
But no, I love the free ebook. That's something nowadays I think that a lot of smart people are doing, especially in the kind of marketing space where they just little tips, little tricks here and there, and then eventually, people end up buying from that person, right? So
Well, so just on the marketing piece, like any business you have, you're in the marketing business.
yeah,
You have to market
absolutely.
your business. If nobody knows you exist, guess what? Nobody's going to buy from you. So you call it whatever you want, marketing, promotion, whatever. People got to find out about you to buy from you. So however you want to go about that, a lot of people do word of mouth, and that's fine. It's going to be a very like linear growth pattern, right?
Yeah,
Like you can do word
yeah,
of mouth, you do good work, you do good reviews, that's great. But if you really want to grow aggressively, you need another way to bring prospects in. So whether you do paid ads or, home shows, whatever, you need a way to bring people in to find out about you. And like, I'm sick of seeing my face on Instagram, but most people haven't even seen me, you know?
yeah, yeah,
It's like,
yeah. No, I completely agree. I think multiple touch points as well is important. I think if you kind of take a different approach to marketing where you're going a little bit more traditional as well as online. I know for us that was kind of our approach the first year. Obviously, I started a Facebook page. I posted in a bunch of local groups, and obviously that had some good traction. But it was mainly the door hangers. Believe it or not, I went around and delivered some door hangers, and the word got out. And as soon as we delivered those, I mean, that day and the 2, 3, 4 days later, the phone was nonstop, right?
what did you have on
Now,
the door hangers?
on the door hangers, I pretty much put my price on the door hangers. I put everything there. It kind of went heavy that first year on kind of discounts and an early bird type special. And I specifically had put that early bird special within a 2 week period of delivering those flyers just to be able to kind of get people calling right
Yeah,
away.
so essentially sign
Um,
up by this date, you get this price, call this
yeah,
number.
yeah,
Yeah, so you had an
exactly.
actual offer. Like people
Yeah,
see that and they have a reason to call you, right? Whereas some people do door hangers and it's like, hey, it's chucking snow. We do snow.
yeah. There has
Okay,
to
cool.
be, there
I'm
has
gonna
to be
hang
an,
it up somewhere and maybe I'll freaking think about it, but probably it's gonna sit on the table and then the wife will throw it out in a couple weeks, right?
yeah,
But if
yeah.
you have an actual offer, an actual reason for people to call, like that's actual, like that's market. That makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, for us it was huge. I know we went pretty aggressive that first year on those door hangers. We did them two neighborhoods. We did it twice, and
Hand
then
deliver?
the entire yeah, they were all well hand delivered. I mean, they were door hangers, right? So they're actual door hangers hanging on your door, but
Yeah,
they're
but I mean, like, did you guys hand deliver them?
we
Yeah, yeah,
did. So,
awesome.
well, we
Cool.
did our neighborhood. We did our neighborhood, and the years after that. So I've actually done door hangers every year since I've started. I think it's just a good way to kind of just add another touch point. It's not super pricey either to get those printed. And what I've done is I've actually so 2 years ago I ended up printing a bunch, and I kind of put so I didn't put prices, I didn't put anything date related. I kind of kept it a little bit more generic so that I was able to keep using those that second year. So we ended up passing those out this past year as well. But the door hangers are a different approach because I know for us, obviously, a lot of more elderly people hire for snow removal. So for us, that was really the target market for those door hangers, right? It wasn't necessarily the people that are online or the younger people, but again, it's still another touch point. So they might see my bus stop driving into town, and then they get the door hanger. And again, I think the door hanger approach compared to direct mail, there's a significant difference there. We did direct mail, we did one campaign last year, and we didn't get as much as the door hangers. The door hangers are just, it's in your face, right? You have no choice but to grab that thing and look at it. And then, like you said, a lot of times that gets placed at the entranceway to your house and gets left there because you're not actually going to pick up the mail at the same time and throwing everything out, right? I know for me,
Yeah,
I
for
sift
sure.
through that mail and I throw everything out except for the bank statements or whatever's coming
Yeah, yeah.
in, right? So
Sift through it over the garbage can,
yeah, exactly,
basically.
exactly. Whereas that door hanger, that thing can stick around your front porch for a couple weeks at a time. But no, I definitely think that a multi-channel approach with marketing is a big key. If you can have anywhere between 6 to 8 touch points within a month or two period of time, I think your chances go way up. I know for us, we ran ads for the first time actually last year on Facebook, and I kind of wanted to wait to run Facebook ads because I didn't want the ads to kind of be, you get Facebook ads all the time, in your feed that are just, they look like a scam. I mean, it just smells fishy right away. And So what we did is we obviously ran the ads and kind of personalized it. So it was just kind of a video, a selfie video of myself. We ran a couple other videos of tractors going around. And although that didn't bring, like you said, it didn't bring a whole ton of revenue and leads through the door. But what it does is just it gives you exposure, right? I know for me the Facebook ads was pretty surprising because as soon as I ran that, it started in I think it was end of October, early November. We had the Christmas parade at the end of November, and I was walking along in the parade, and I got shouted at twice and was told, "Your ads are annoying the fuck out of me. Stop running those ads." And I kind of just looked at him and laughed and did like, okay, is he serious? Or, well, you know what? I don't give a shit. If he is serious, well, it worked, right? So not only that, I was in line at my son's school Christmas play outside, and the guy in front of me kind of kept kind of looking back and looking at me, and in my head I'm thinking, okay, what's this guy want? So eventually he kind of just looked over and said, are you Chuck from Chuck and Snow? Yeah, that's me. Do I know you? Or no, I just see your ads everywhere, and you served my sister and my mother, or whatever it was. I had two of his family members that we had serviced, right? So it's the visibility. He didn't buy, no, but I did slip him a business card, but no, and it's not for everybody, right? Snow removal is definitely something I think in our town, at least in terms of the percentage of homes that actually purchase that service compared to Ottawa, it's not even close just because of the farm town that there's so many farmers and people that can just do it themselves. And again, it's kind of a belief that, I'm not going to pay somebody to do that when I can do it, right? So, whereas the city, you look at Montreal, in Montreal, they're up above 50% of households hiring for snow removal. So, but they've been there doing that for 30, 40 years now. Whereas Ottawa, it started maybe 20, 25 years ago, but really kind of took off in the last, decade-ish, right? So, but pretty interesting take. So what, in your industry specifically then, what are some, I guess, some major changes that you kind of see, right now that are kind of coming through?
Well, the technology it's like a gold rush, man. Like every year like right now it's the batteries. Batteries is the next big thing, the home batteries. We just got certified for Tesla Powerwalls earlier this year. We just got our first shipment yesterday. Actually, we got 7 of them. So I had to write $100,000 check to Tesla. So that was cool to do.
Right on.
Yeah, so 5 of those are sold. We got 2 more left. I'm actually running a promo here shortly to announce that. So home batteries is like the next big thing. Everybody's going, they want some form of backup power. We've had a few grid outages in Ottawa, like tornadoes, storms, whether that's, Mother Nature destroying the lines or just grid instability. People want the comfort of knowing that their home's going to stay powered. Over the past 20 years, it's been home generators has been the big thing, right? I think those are going to definitely be on a big decline. And the people that are in that business are, actively looking at changing their service and product offerings into to incorporating home batteries, because that's going to be the future. And I could see, somewhere where down the road, like most homes are going to have a home battery, maybe not tied in with solar, but they're going to have a home battery. The government is highly incentivizing it right now in Ontario. Like they have a $10.9 billion incentive package over the next 12 years for behind the meter solar and battery, which means basically you're not exporting anything back to the grid. You're just powering your property. Most of that's for residential, but they're also targeting commercial buildings. So just on the same theme as before, is like basically they want us to use or to need less power from the grid and become a little bit more self-reliant. And most people want that feeling as well too. Like we're so reliant on our home, our creature comforts, essentially Wi-Fi, all this stuff. But people don't really want to be without that stuff anymore. Like you said, a lot of people are working from home nowadays. They don't want to be without power for a day or two. Like it's inconvenient. If you can invest a little bit of money and it's incentivized and there's good financing available, that's a home upgrade that a lot of homeowners are doing now instead of like a backup generator or stuff like that. But we're pretty much, sometimes it comes between like, well, are we going to do the kitchen or are we going to get a solar system, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's kind of an add-on that people don't necessarily need, but at the same time, in your sales process, if you can approach it to be more of a need, just to be prepared for the future. I think there's a play there to be had, right? So
Well, we're electrifying everything, right? So we're moving away from natural gas furnaces. We're going to electric heat pumps. The electric heat pumps are good for up to -20, and then you need some form of backup. So usually people are getting electric furnaces. And then we're also at the same time, a lot of people are going to EVs. So it's like your amount of power you need now for your house has like doubled
yeah,
at least.
yeah,
So if you can make some of that power, save on that monthly bill, essentially self-generate the savings that you get from, off your hydro bill, pay for the system, and then you also have backup power. I mean, that's a good value prop right there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know when we first bought our house, we bought in, I guess it would have been 2018, 2017, 2018, we moved in. And I know at that point they were upgrading all the new, all the panels essentially from I think it was 100 amp to 200 amp. And that was included in the price of our house, where just previously, I think months prior, it wasn't necessarily something that was kind of included in the house, right? It was just a 100 amp panel, but then they would, offer the upgrade to a 200 amp for
Yeah, the
future.
the 100 amp panels, because we'll do some like townhouses, let's say, where you can't necessarily upgrade the service anymore because it goes to like a gang, like the service from hydro goes to a gang meter base, and then each house is fed from there. So they
Right,
can't just
right.
upgrade the whole thing. And then we're
Hmm.
stuck on a 100 amp service. We just did one yesterday, actually, where, they're going to a heat pump, they're going to electric furnace, plus they have an electric vehicle and they want an electric hot water tank. And then it gets pretty complex. We have to install a bunch of essentially like load shed devices, which will mean like, hey, if you're using this much power for your furnace, well, your oven's not going to work, or this is not going to work, or something, right? It's kind
Right,
of
right.
kind of got to manage all those loads, which they're getting smarter. They have better and better ways to manage all that. But basically, like, you want a 200 amp panel if you're going to go all electric. But yeah, a lot of the older houses have 100. Most of them are upgradable. Some of them are not. But yeah, the load that we're going to need, in the next 10 years, when everybody starts rolling out all those upgrades more and more frequently, it's going to be substantial. So the more power we can make at home, I think it makes
Yeah,
sense for me.
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. And I guess what's your biggest challenge been this year, with your business, if you can kind of pinpoint one specific issue, whether it be, weather, competition, labor, what's your biggest concern for this year?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a concern, but like my biggest challenge this year is really just to hit our goals that we set. Like we set some pretty heavy goals for this year, basically 5 or 6x what we did last year. Because now I'm like,
Okay.
last year I was still on the tools, right? So I had a couple helpers, a couple young lads that were working with me, and I was up on the roof installing everything. So I did a full year on the tools. We had a good year, but this year I'm totally off the tools. Hired some like really really good guys. They're better than me, basically, which is the way to do it. And now my challenge is marketing and sales. So I'm like, okay, if we're going to hit our revenue targets, like, I need to pump out enough leads and enough sales to hit those targets, to make sure the guys have enough work, and to grow the company to where we want to be. So that's my biggest challenge this year, is really, and that's why I'm just spending the bigger portion of my day on marketing and sales. Whereas before, when I'd be in the office, I'd be like a freaking ADHD hamster, just like bouncing around. Email came in, okay, well, I'll deal with that, and oh, they need this, and like, and then I get to the end of my day and I'm like, man, I don't even know what I freaking did today,
Yeah,
right? I did this exercise where I have a spreadsheet and a timer on my desk, and it'd be a 15-minute timer. Every 15 minutes, I reset that timer and I log what I did for that 15-minute period. And then you do that for a couple of weeks and you realize, you're like, man, like, I did 45 minutes of productive work that day, or
yeah,
zero,
yeah.
or, hopefully 2 3 hours. But it really puts it in perspective. You're like, okay, I need to block out that time where I'm not checking emails, I'm unreachable, and then I can actually get 4 or 5 hours of actual productive work done for the business. And yeah, you got to prioritize it, man, because if not, it just
I
gets away
completely
from you, and then you
Completely
burn out
agree.
there.
I completely agree. No, I think the beginning stages, you're kind of, like you said, it's kind of just like, ADHD, where you're just kind of going in every sense, and you feel like you're working, right? Like deep down
Yeah,
inside, it's like I'm busy. I'm
feels
working
great.
right now, right? But then again, it's trying to prioritize that work, right? So again, growing the business and working on the business versus inside of it, there's a big difference there, right? Working on the business, where you're working on a marketing campaign or a strategy, that's working on the business, right? You're obviously not just answering emails and putting an order in, or sending quotes and doing all this stuff, right? So, and again, it's a bit of a trick, because it makes you feel like you're working, right? You're busy, an hour or two goes by, and wow, I did all this work. And but then, you're, like you said, you really look at it and you break it down. It's like, okay, I answered a couple emails, I sent this off, I had a call at this time, and then, yeah, I really didn't do all that much, right? So it's definitely trying to find that balance. So, and then that kind of leads me to my next question. Then, in terms of kind of work-life balance when it comes to running a business, how do you manage, your business versus your personal time? I know you said you were married. do you have any kids on the way? Is that something in the works for the future? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we just got married in January. Honeymoon's in the fall, and then we're trying for some kids. So I'm sure
Congrats.
that my answer might change. Thank you. My answer might change in a year when we got a little one or two, or well, just one, I would say, running
Yeah.
around. But right now, dude, the reason that like I like what I do is like it doesn't really feel like work. Like the way I structure my day, I'm usually up like anywhere from 5 to 6, make some coffee, and then I hit the office and I'm working for the first 3 4 hours. Then I do some calls. Maybe we'll do my wife works from home too. Maybe we'll do a little Starbucks run for lunch or something like that. Go back in the office, work the afternoon, hit the gym, and then I'll probably do a couple more hours of work at night. And I can kind of do what I want. Like there's always work to be done in terms of like balance. Like I don't know, dude. Like I'm not done work at 5 and then I'm sitting on the couch. Like I can't do that. I can't do
Hmm.
that. So
Yeah.
the balance for me is like it depends what you're doing. If you're doing some hobbies or you're going to, go train at the gym or whatever, go see friends, yeah, definitely do that. That's definitely good. But if you're going to go like essentially waste your time, then I think it's probably better for you to work on your business,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
work on getting better because like I'm not good enough to have a $10 million business, to have $100 million business. So I need to get good enough. And if I'm just doing my 8 hour day and I think I'm going to get there, like you're not going to get there, dude.
Yeah.
You have to put in extra effort to be able to get there. And that comes from, a couple hours every night extra. Maybe not
Yeah.
every night. Maybe, Friday night you have an outing, you have a supper or whatever, that's fine. But an extra 10, 15 hours a week compounded over years, that adds up. So it's like
Absolutely.
it's pay to play. You got to do it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I completely agree. Especially starting out, I think those initial stages, the first couple years, I think, especially if you don't have kids, and especially so if you don't have a wife or a girlfriend, right? Like, I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't be spending 16 hours a day working, or at least maybe not physically working on your business, but at least doing research, watching, educating yourself on certain subjects of business, right? And a lot of it can be dry, but a lot of it, you kind of have to do because you're the one running the business, right? There's definitely a balance there. I know for me, I've got a big passion for coaching. So for me, I coach a T-ball team on Tuesday nights. I coach a rookie ball team on Thursday nights, and I love it. And my son, I've got a 4-year-old son, so he obviously
Yes.
plays T-ball, but I like it so much. I decided to throw my name into coach on Thursdays with the older kids. And honestly, so far this year, I've been absolutely pleased with committing to that and having coached a team that I don't have a son on, right?
And how many hours a week is that for you?
That's 2 hours a week, right? That's 2 hours a week.
What I
So it's
mean, bro.
not,
People say work life balance, and if they audited their time, like they don't do shit.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
there is so
yeah,
much time in a day, man. And if you're just gonna essentially clock out at 4 p.m. and that's it, yeah, you're gonna get beat, man. Like I have friends that have 3 4 kids, have their business, have a wife. They're still putting in 8 10 12 hour days. Like they're still putting in the Saturday. So like I think people just like to use that excuse to like as a cop out, basically, just to like, oh well, I'm entitled to not working that hard and still being successful. I'm
yeah,
like, it's not going to work, dude, because you got
yeah,
guys doing 50, 60, 70 hour weeks that you're competing against and you think you can get away with 35. Like that's a terrible mindset. And maybe you can, maybe you're smarter or you're a little bit more talented so you can get away with it for a little bit, but at a certain level you're not going to be able to get past that level until you put in the time.
yeah. No, I completely agree. Completely agree. Well, I know for me, I mean, nowadays I feel guilty just watching a hockey game, right? Obviously, I'm big into hockey and obviously watching the playoffs now with Edmonton starting tonight. There's times where if I'm just watching a hockey game and I'm either alone or just with my wife, there's something in me that tells me like, hey, pick up your laptop. There's something you could be doing right now, and I'll catch myself in some of those moments, right, where I tell myself, okay, I'm just gonna cancel out and just watch this game and just kind of enjoy the night. And it just just the guilt just eats me up. It's just the laptop's just like creaked open looking at me, and I just most of the time end up picking it up and just working on something, whether I'm listening to an educational video on some type of subject, or I'm actually just working on the business. But I like to at least use that time to do something that I might not otherwise be doing while watching a hockey game. I definitely
Yeah.
feel guilty
I like
sometimes
I like
in
that
those
guilt
moments.
piece, man. Because like I never had that before. When you're working for somebody else, you're like, oh, I'm clocked out. Like whatever, I'll watch TV for an hour. Just essentially fuck off for the night, and it's fine. But then when you got shit pending, it's very hard to do that. And like I don't know if you've ever played video games. I used to play a little bit of video games. Like I can't anymore because I can't like consciously say, I'm going to spend 3 hours on this freaking thing that's going to get me nothing.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely
So it's
nothing.
like
And in
there's
fact,
too
it's
much
more
guilt.
negative than positive. There's negative in there as well. I know I played Call of Duty back when I was a teenager. I mean, I got borderline violent playing hockey just because I was so ramped up playing Call of Duty beforehand. I'd show up there, I'd crush a Red Bull, and then I'd be a menace on the ice.
There you go.
So I told myself, you know what? Yeah, video games, especially Call of Duty, where it's a little bit more violence involved. Again, you don't think that that has an effect on you, but I think deep down in your subconscious, it definitely does have an effect. So
I think
nowadays, yeah, I haven't played video games in years. I mean, since I think Call of Duty, I might have played a bit of Guitar Hero since then, but apart from that, I don't play video games nowadays at all.
Yeah, I think like for me, it's helpful, like kind of reverse engineering. Like, hey, I want to go here. And if I want to be like this person that has accomplished these things at age 40, 50 or whatever, how do you think that person spends their days? Or how do you think they spent the
Yeah,
last 20 years?
yeah,
Well, it's not getting drunk every weekend. It's not playing video games, 10, 15 hours a week. Like it's none of those things. So it's like you got to change your habits and like even little micro changes, right? That like stack up over time. Like, hey, I'm going to eat, I'm not eating that type of food anymore. Or I'm going to work
hmm,
out at least once a day, going to read 10 pages a day. Like little things like that over time stack up. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
one of the programs I've done, and I don't know if you ever done it, if you heard about it, but it's called 75 Hard. You ever heard of that one?
Nope, no, I haven't heard of it.
Essentially, it's a 75-day challenge. And every day you have these same tasks you need to accomplish. And if you fail to do one of the tasks, you have to restart the challenge from day one.
Okay, okay,
So it's two workouts a day. One has to be outside. So 45-minute workout outside, 45-minute workout in the gym. I have to follow a clean diet. I have to drink 4 liters of water. I have to what was the last thing? Have to read 10 pages. Did I say that? Have to read 10 pages of nonfiction, so self-development book, and have to take a progress picture. And that's every day for 75 days. And I've done that like 3 times. And every time you realize like, it sounds like a lot. You're like, dude, how am I ever going to have time to do that? But then you do it all in a day for 75 days. And you're like, okay, I got a lot more time than I think I do. I'm just
hmm,
wasting it doing stupid shit.
yeah, yeah. Well, I know obviously a lot of entrepreneurs are time management's a big thing, right? Is trying to manage your time appropriately. And I know for me, I've struggled a little bit with going to bed just a little bit too late, where I wake up in the morning, I just haven't had that full 7 hours or 6.5, 7 hours of sleep, right? So there's times where even I'm kind of nitpicking at small things, and I think everybody should be kind of doing that type of self-reflection, and kind of evaluating where can I squeeze in half an hour here, where can I squeeze in 15 minutes there, even, right? Just like you said, reading 10 pages of a book doesn't take that long, but after several days you end up finishing a book and it's like, okay, well, on to the next, and just keep self-developing, right?
Yeah, the time management, like you can work freaking hard, but like working freaking hard at some point, like it's not going to get you to the next level, right? You're going to have
Yeah,
to work more effectively and
yeah,
find
work
more
smarter.
leverage in the tasks that you do, right? So it's
Yeah,
like for me, it's like, yeah, I could work 12, 16 hours on the tools and be in just me in a van with a helper, and I'll work really freaking hard. Like it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to feel really hard, but I'm still going to tap out at like under a mil in revenue, and I'm going to be like beat to the ground. Right. So it's like at some point you need to find different tasks to work on that give you better leverage and use your time more efficiently,
right,
basically.
right. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Completely agree. I guess transitioning to kind of the future of your business, where do you, I guess, see your business in the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months, and then where do you see it, let's say, in 3 to 5 years? What's the vision there?
Yeah. So 6 to 12 months is really dominating the local market, which I think we're on our way there. The team of guys we have now, very, very good. Very happy with the team of guys that we have. We're a small team, but guys are all very experienced at what they do, and they can put out a lot of volume. So I kind of shared our goals, which is basically 4 mil this year in revenue is what we're hoping to do. So 100 residential jobs and then a million in commercial jobs. That's the goal for this year. We're on our way there, but we got to keep pushing for the rest of the year. That's kind of the immediate, but like, it's really dominating the local market is what I want to start doing. And then the next 3 to 5 years is expanding into different cities in Canada, and then also expanding into the States and growing the business to, be quite a bit bigger than it is now.
Right on, right on. Yeah, I love to hear it, man. Love to hear people's visions and where they kind of see their business, right? And the steps that's kind of required to get there. So I guess for this next, let's say the next month, if there was a one problem that you could solve within your business, what would that one problem be within a month?
Problems to solve. I don't know if it's a problem, right? I think like my main focus for the next little bit is really just marketing. So I'm putting out a bunch of different campaigns. I'm working on 3 different funnels right now. And it's just essentially like any opportunity in Ottawa, like any person that wants solar, I want to add that. I want a chance. I want them to know that I exist and I want a chance. That's all I can ask for. Like I don't, it'd be ignorant of me to say that I want freaking every sale in Ottawa. Not realistic, but if I can have a chance, if I can be one of the quotes that they look at, if I can be one of the people that they talk to, and I can demonstrate that, maybe our process is a little better, our reviews are better, our installation process is smoother, and, kind of have a chance to talk to the client and sell them on us. That's basically what I'm looking for. So I want as many people to be aware of us, and that's where I'm hitting all these different campaigns. So we're doing a mailing campaign that's also going to tie into minimal Facebook ads, but some Facebook ads. We're hitting Orleans first. That's going to be because that's where I live, so I'm going to hit the local neighborhood, and then we're going to spread out to all over Ottawa with the same campaign. Obviously, we're going to measure the results to make sure that it is effective. So yeah, that's my biggest challenge right now. Sales are good. The project management team is solid. We're getting the commercial estimates done. The guys on site are rolling smooth. So there's not really much for me to do there. I'm still a little bit involved just for like some of the more in-depth like code questions or a design and stuff like that for the on-site stuff. But really it's just offloading more and more. Because before I'm like kind of doing everything, right? So now I'm kind of offloading some of the project management. About 50% of it is offloaded to the team. I want to get rid of the remaining 50% within the next little bit, more of a 6 to 12 month period. And then the on-site stuff, like at some point, I don't really want to be involved with the day-to-day of that and just really hand it off to the team and like, hey, this is your project. These are your permit sets. See you later. And I'm just doing really my main focus is marketing and sales, and then probably getting some help at some point in the marketing and sales within the next 6 to 12 months.
Right, right. No,
But
I
just
love to hear it, man.
delegating more and more. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, these are the tasks that I do for this portion of the business. What can I delegate? Well, these ones are relatively simple, let's say. Delegate that and then delegate a bit more, and just kind of get daily touch points to make sure everything is going smooth and hand off more and more.
Right on, right on. No, I love to hear that. Honestly, for me, marketing and sales is a big passion of mine. So for me, I love to hear that business owners are working on that aspect of their business, right? So I guess that leads me kind of our last, more important segment here within the podcast, which is AI. So obviously trying to, you know, offshoot things to other people and trying to get stuff done behind the scenes. When it comes to technology, are right now are you using any AI tools within your business? And if so, what do those tools look like?
Definitely use AI. I'm not using like a ton of automations in the business. We obviously have integrations on the back end for the softwares, just so data gets shot across all the softwares. And that's kind of a no brainer. I've played around with a bit of like um, automations. I don't know if you'd call it AI, but automated text messages or
Hmm.
shit like that to communicate with clients. At our scale right now, I think it's better for me to manually do it and have those touch points with the clients. The biggest tool that I'm using right now, which probably everybody's using, is ChatGPT. And it's more so of basically something like bounce around ideas with. So, like, for example, like I just rebuilt the website. I had to rebuild it from scratch. I've never built a freaking website, dude. I'm an electrician. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like it was 40 hours of me looking at one screen and then asking ChatGPT, like, hey, why is my button not loading the right color or doing this or doing that? And like, okay, well, based on, the theme that you're using, this is what you need to do. Okay, cool. Do it. And then back and
Hmm.
forth, back and forth. So I use that all the time. And like for sales, this is probably pretty funny, but I use ChatGPT to do like sales role plays. So I'll say, hey, I'm getting this objection a lot. I need to think about it. Let's role play that objection. So whenever I hop in the truck and I drive to the gym, I do 20 minutes of role plays with ChatGPT. What else do I use it for? Marketing, like, hey, I'm planning to do this campaign. These are the points I want to hit. These are, our guarantees. This is basically the core layout. Give me, ad for Facebook, or give me a sales letter, or give me whatever.
Hmm.
Drafts it up, edit it, make sure everything checks out, or like use it to like, hey, I'm planning to run this campaign, but I'm not sure about this. What should I do for this? And then it'll kind of lay it out. So I think if you're not using that, like, frig, you're just making a ton of work for yourself. Like, it's like it's basically a helper that has the knowledge of everything. So you should be
Hmm.
using that, as well as, reading the books and doing the audio books and all the other education you need to do. But it's another tool to use. And if you're not using it, I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah. No, I
Using it
completely agree. Honestly, just in the research I've done in the last 6 or so months on AI, and obviously it's kind of boomed in the last couple years since the ChatGPT came out, and all these other apps now are obviously coming out because everybody's trying to copy everybody, and you've got these big companies, obviously Google, Apple, Meta, that are essentially implementing AI into their own stuff. I think the potential is almost limitless in terms of implementing different AI tools in your business. And I think a lot of the tools are underutilized, right? There's tools out there that I've just searched. Is there asking AI, asking ChatGPT? Is there a tool out there that involves AI and that can help with this and this, and then it'll come up with ideas, right? And it's some of the apps aren't necessarily perfected by now, but I think there's a lot of development to be made on a lot of these apps, and I think a lot of contractors especially are just underutilizing AI. And I think obviously ChatGPT is one of the big ones where you can just have somebody to talk to, right? You just bounce ideas off of. I know for me, obviously coaching T-ball, we had to practice for 6 weeks before starting the games. We're just starting next week. If I went in there and essentially create a 6 week practice plan for T-ball kids age 3 to 6. This is how I want it formatted. It should be an hour tops. As long as you prompt, really the prompting with a ChatGPT is where it's really important, right? If you can give it clear and concise directions for what you want, it'll spit out what you want, right? And if it doesn't, you just ask it, hey, can you just tweak and tailor this to what I need it to? The more detail you give, the better it is. But I think a lot of the AI nowadays is within the memory of AI, right? So if you implement some type of AI agent into your business, whether that be a chatbot on your website, whether it's a voice agent answering your phone, or it's a text agent essentially reading and drafting emails, in your Gmail, a lot of it is customizable, right? You scan your website, you essentially just copy and paste your website, you copy and paste any SOPs or any type of directives or internal documents that you have about your company, and you input everything in there, including all the emails you've ever sent to potential customers. Now you've got essentially an AI bot that knows your business just as much as you do, right? So there's a lot out there that's I think that's underutilized. So I guess in your industry specifically, within the kind of the solar industry, where do you think within the business AI could help the most? If you were to have one AI app that can kind of help with one specific thing that you think solar companies could start with, what would that one piece be?
Oh, it's a good question. I feel like AI is a great tool. I don't feel like I'm ready to delegate entire roles to it yet. I think we're kind of in a transition period right now where I don't know if it's 10 years or 20 years, but at some point you're going to call a business and you're not going to want to talk to a person because the AI will get it done right away. It's not going to be like when you call the bank, talk to one person, and then they got to transfer you somewhere else and transfer you somewhere else
Hmm.
just to get the freaking simplest thing done, right? It's just going to be an AI that says, hey, I need you to push this charge through or do this. Yeah, no problem. It's done. You're not going to want to talk to a person. But the transition period might be a little difficult. Like my buddy just sent me a link today. It was an AI sales rep, right, for businesses. And I'm like, oh, sounds interesting. I don't know if I want to like totally, let go of the reins and let an AI take over my sales department yet. But yeah, I think there's a role for every part of the business. Like for us, like the bigger chunks of the business is we got sales, marketing, and then we got fulfillment, which is essentially project management and installation. For scheduling and stuff, probably AI could do some of that stuff. Like, hey, we need to fill out a hydro application. It's pretty simple. It's pretty repeatable. Pull the data
Hmm.
from here, put it in here. Could probably do it. Is there a tool that exists? I don't know. I don't think so. That's just like it's kind of like paperwork bullshit that we got to do. That you got to have a guy that's still high, like well paid to do that, but it's essentially like a kind of a low skill task, right? Even scheduling the crews, ordering the material, like all these things could be more automated. Sales and marketing, like I think marketing done right is still very creative. AI can be very helpful. Like I told you, like I use ChatGPT to help with all my marketing stuff that I'm working on, just as like something to kind of bounce ideas off of. So I don't know if it's going to come to a point where like, hey, we're a solar company starting in Ottawa. We're going after this type of client. I want 3 marketing campaigns. Go. And then it makes the Facebook ads, makes the copy, makes the whatever, mailers, door hangers, everything, makes a package and then implements it. It's probably where it's going to go eventually. Is it there yet? No, I don't think so. But yeah, I think there's going to be eventually it's all going to be AI, or very, like, most of the business is going to run on AI, which is good. And even websites, like, I don't think websites right now, if you need to find a solar company, you go and you Google a top rated solar company in Ottawa. Okay, these are the top ones. Go on their website. Okay, I want a quote. You get a couple quotes, talk to a couple people. Eventually, it's going to be ask ChatGPT, hey, I want solar installed on my house. This is how much power consumption we need. I want the price to be, the most bang for buck, or what, however you want to word it. I want them to be at least 5-star rated, have this and this and that, and I want this equipment. Get me quotes. And then it's just going to populate the quotes, book here, done. It's not even going to, like, it might pull from a database, but I don't think we're going to have traditional websites anymore where people are going and viewing stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think nowadays people and there's there's GPTs coming out now where it's kind of a research GPT, right? Where it actually searches the webs or the web, sorry, and goes through different websites, and it'll take a minute, right? It'll take a minute when you ask a question. Hey, I'm looking for a company like you just said. I know for one app, Perplexity, it's called, and it's more of a research type app, right? Where you can actually web search stuff where ChatGPT can pick from that, but it'll be specific to what your prompt is, right? But I think it's heavily underutilized when it comes to kind of the back end boring part of the business, right?
There's going to be a lot of opportunity where I see is like the 30-year-old plumbing company that's been around, that is, whatever, call it $1 to $3 million in revenue, has 5 or 6 guys, still kind of mom and pop shop. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for AI companies to come in and implement AI into their business and have like a, hey, this is $100,000 AI package that's going to handle everything you said. Like for our business would be project management, sales, everything is like, this is a complete package that will essentially run your business for you and get rid of, 2 people in the office,
Yeah, yeah.
and be a better customer experience, make better margins, make better decisions, be able to quote stuff on the spot instead of some guy and scratching a piece of paper or whatever. Like, that's coming.
I think AI is just kind of on the cusp of kind of just taking that upwards trend. In my opinion, we're already kind of in that rise. And I think if companies kind of get used to working with AI right now, I think the easier it'll be in 2, 3 years from now when you got your competitors actually just starting out with AI and you've already got 2, 3 years under your belt. And having 2, 3 years under your belt where you have, let's say, a voice AI agent answering your phone when you can't answer, right? Because most of this is kind of as a backup technically, right? Whereas if you're not able to answer your phone, it answers for you. And I know in the snowmobile industry, it's a little bit more appealing to business owners because you can get 10, 15, 20 calls within the span of literally 5, 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But just setting appointments, right? Like just acting as a receptionist and essentially setting appointments for you. Let's say you want to have a 30-minute virtual call with a prospect, but you don't want to have to talk to them for 5, 10 minutes, which sometimes turns into 30 minutes, right? Some people just like to chat your ear off.
Mhm.
So it kind of prioritizes, the work, right? So it's answering the phone and it's essentially gathering the essential information that you give it, you're giving instructions to the AI agent and saying, listen, this is the information I want you to gather from the prospect. And I want you to look at my calendar. And so that voice AI agent will have your Google Calendar linked to that or whatever other app, whether it's Calendly or any other app that you use. The large language model, which is essentially ChatGPT, will check your calendar and go, yeah, okay, so we have availabilities for 9 a.m. Tomorrow or 3 p.m. the day after. What works best for you? Oh, none of those dates work for me. Oh, okay. It'll recheck your schedule again. It'll give out another 2, 3 options, and then it'll book that appointment so that you can fall into that appointment and already be ready to go without having to waste, again, 5, 10 minutes sometimes, but a lot of times calls can turn into 20, 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, it's more like the interruption for me. It's like I'm in the middle of something, I get a call, and it's like, is it 5 minutes? Is it 10 minutes? Is it
Yeah,
30 minutes? Like,
yeah,
frig, I'm in the middle of something. But yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that's an easy one, AI receptionist, because I think it's fairly straightforward to set an appointment, right? Like, sometimes, yeah, people want to get on the technical side, but it's like, hey, no problem. We'll discuss that in the appointment. That's why we
yeah,
have an
yeah.
appointment.
100%. But the more data that you put into that voice AI agent, right? Like if you have, let's say you've got an SOP on the installation process, and your installers have access to that information, but you want your receptionist to actually have access to that information. You just upload that document into that voice AI agent, And now
Yeah.
it's got a database of information to go off of, right? So if you've got a prospect saying, well, I just have a quick question, actually, it's not to book an appointment. I'm just curious, what sizes of battery packs that you guys have, or whatever the question is, that's a bit more of a technical question. Now it takes a split second for that to go into the database and essentially pull that exact information and go, actually, here are options. If you'd like to chat further, we can book you an appointment. So it's kind of pushing politely towards the appointment booking, but it'll provide information about your company as well, right? So there's just different aspects to that, and there's different apps out there that do different things as well, right? This is just kind of a basic voice AI agent that can handle some of that, and the majority of this is time that it saves and costs that it reduces, right? So it's not just gaining more leads and gaining more revenue; it's just tightening up the back end, right? So and same for kind of a service delivery type aspect. Obviously, you're most likely using some kind of project management app. A lot of project management apps nowadays have AI built right into them, where they'll essentially create the schedule or create, the install schedule for the next week or so, and it'll adjust it and modify it as needed, right? So if your guys aren't able to make it to that last job on the Monday morning, now AI is going to go into your calendar, shift everything and shuffle everything, not everything, but it's going to set it back so that it's more appropriately scheduled, so that your installers, don't have to let you know, hey, we weren't able to do that job. Can you update the schedule for tomorrow? Well, now you're taking a call from your own guy to have to go into a calendar or schedule and modify things, where AI can kind of automatically do that, right? So
Yeah,
I
all the
think that,
clients and all that stuff, right? So
yeah,
yeah.
I think pretty much the last little segment for a podcast here, kind of a rapid fire question type deal. So what's the best piece of business advice that you've ever received? One piece.
The best business advice. This is one I didn't follow when I when I started the business, but it's something you learn. Sometimes it's better to say no and stay home
Yeah,
to
I
certain
can't I
clients
can't
and
disagree
certain
with
jobs.
that. Yeah, especially as a business owner. I mean, saying no to going out on a night of drinking, that can be those can compound over time.
That too, but I meant more like certain clients and certain jobs. You
Yeah,
say, you know what, buddy, all good. I'll stay home. It's cheaper for me to stay home than deal with
yeah,
that.
yeah, 100%. One tool or piece of equipment that you can't live without. And don't tell me a Milwaukee product or anything. I don't want to hear Milwaukee.
I no tools at home anymore, buddy. They're all at the shop. I know it's probably like spreadsheets, dude. Like most of my business runs through spreadsheets, like all the data and stuff. I kind of
Yeah.
obsess over that stuff.
Okay. And
Because
then
like you gotta measure, man. Like if you don't know, like I used to not measure how much profit I was making on a job, right? And then you don't even know what you end up with. So I'd say like measuring and tracking, and usually the simplest way is just spreadsheet.
yeah, 100%, 100%. No, I think yeah, I'd love to see a lot of tradesmen don't spreadsheets is kind of a big boogeyman, right? So, each entrepreneur is different for sure. So, and then if somebody wants to check out your work or get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Easiest way is to Google True Beacon Ottawa. You can land on our website. You can call us. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. We're on TikTok. True Beacon Electric, True Beacon Ottawa. You'll find us. Purple and yellow.
Perfect.
Can't miss us.
Yeah, perfect. All right, well, Nick, this has been awesome, man. Honestly, it's thanks a lot for sharing your story and some insights here today. I really appreciate you taking the time. It was some really good conversation.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. And went a little long, but that's good. I think we both said a lot of stuff, so I think it was good. Hopefully, some people like it.
Yeah, yeah. No, sometimes we get carried away here. When it's good conversation, I kind of just let it flow. So yeah, no, thank you, Nick, and for everybody listening, thanks a lot. Make sure to follow and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next episode where we'll be speaking to another blue collar business owner sharing their blueprint for success. So until then, keep hustling.